I won't run from the crushing. I'll hold on through the pain. What I lose means nothing next to what I gain. Come tear down every idol, so this heart won't stray. Don't let me stray. I just wanna be your sanctuary, a dwelling place for grace and mercy. Keep sifting me till.
Boker Tov. Welcome everybody to the Threshing floor here on LambNetwork.tv. My name is Darryl Weinberg, and you can't see me because the sun is shining right in my face. So we're gonna adjust things a little. Is that better? A little better. Right here on LambNetwork.tv. Great to be with you. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It is a beautiful day out there. Beautiful day in the neighborhood. And you'll see my new coffee mug here. Don't make me use my rabbi voice. Okay? I got one from Milena too that says, don't make me use my teachery voice. So, yes, Threshing floor here where we discuss all things related to Scripture and try to discern what is true, what is not, what is of the Lord, what is not, and helping you be more prepared to walk in the good works that God lay before you, but as well to be able to discern what is the deception from the enemy, because there are many things that are presented as being of the Lord. They are not. Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. Many things can come across as being godly, but in fact they aren't. Look no further than some of the holidays we celebrate, Christmas and Easter and Valentine's Day, all having nothing to do with the things of the Lord and honoring him, but they have been dressed up to appear as such. And so what we do here on Threshing Floor is we have many different guest hosts and people that we interview to help you to understand what it is you're really dealing with out there. And it's been on my heart for a little while now to discuss and expose what may very well be the most evil company in the world. And I know there's some pretty serious competition for that. But I've been hearing more and more about this firm. I've known about it for quite a while. And the company is called Palantir. Most people have never even heard of Palantir, and much less know exactly what they do. And if you go to their website, well, you will see a whole bunch of technological mumbo jumbo. We do system solutions and we do blah, da, da, blah, da, da, blah, da, da, blah. But the reality is Palantir was created for the very purpose of setting up the Antichrist or the beast system. It is going to run the surveillance system, just like BlackRock's Aladdin pretty much determines just about every transaction and trade in the world now. Aladdin determines where BlackRock's money goes. And BlackRock has something like over $20 trillion of assets under management. It is one of the wealthiest corporations in the world. And it controls the vast majority of companies around the world, too. And the very same way that Palantir is being set up to run the surveillance system that's going to allow the Antichrist to look at everything. And what was interesting is last night, Saturday night being family movie night at my house, we picked a movie. Weren't really sure what it was to begin with, but it turns out it was Enemy of the State with John Voight and Will Smith, Gene Hackman, and a host of other pretty famous actors. Um, and what Enemy of the State was about the national, the NSA, which is the spy network of the United States. And the deputy director who was looking for promotion ends up killing a congressman who was in the way of a bill being passed about national surveillance. And someone ends up filming it, and Will Smith ends up getting it as a lawyer, and he's got to run for his life. And Gene Hackman, who was a former employee of the NSA, is helping him. And but what the movie shows, and you got to remember, this movie was made back in the 90s. I mean, they were using VHS tapes. That's how far back this goes. It's like over 30 years ago. And they had spy satellites that were literally able to track everything you did. They were able to pull up all their phone records. They had cameras that were looking at everything, everywhere everybody went. This was 30 years ago. But you see, what Hollywood does, we got to understand that it's all about projection. It's all about the letting us know what it is that they're doing. It's predictive programming. They're telling us this is already in place. It's not entertainment. These are documentaries that Hollywood produces. It's just got, a good story, and somehow or another the good guys always win. But the reality is this stuff is already out there and has been for a long time. And Palantir, when you study its origins, Palantir was created in 2003 by Peter Thiel. And Peter Thiel, we know, is also the founder of PayPal. He did that with Elon Musk. And Peter Thiel is one of the tech billionaires, also a practicing homosexual. And a couple of weeks ago, you might remember that we were discussing how he was actually doing a speaking tour last year on who the Antichrist was, Peter Thiel. And if you listen to what this guy talks about, it's not good. Some of the things that he discusses, it ain't good. His philosophy on life, I mean, he very much like these other tech guys, they look at us like we're nothing and we need to be controlled. Now, the current president of Palantir is a guy by the name of Alex Karp. And if you've ever seen pictures of Alex Karp, he's got hair that's all out over here. He looks like Marty Feldman in Young Frankenstein. Young Frankenstein with Gene Wilder. And you listen to some of the things that this guy says, it's incredible. So where does Palantir even get its name from? Well, if you remember Lord of the Rings, and I'm going to show you a clip right now. Share with the audio. Okay, here we go. And okay, we're going to add that to the stage. I'm going to go over here. Here we go. Look at this.
The power of Isengard is at your command, Sauron, Lord of the Earth. Ask, warrior, build me an army worthy of Mordor.
What orders from Mordor, my lord? What does the Eye command?
We have work to do.
All right. So that eye, that seeing stone, is the Palantir or the Palantiri. And it represents the all-seeing eye of Lucifer that we know is on the back of the US $1 bill. So let's just pull that up here. This is, a famous symbol, of course, within Freemasonry. Here we go. No, we're not doing that. All right. Here, we'll have a look at this here. So if it helps to have someone do this for you here. So you can look here. You've seen this. It's all on the back of the $1 bill. And the all-seeing eye is the eye of Lucifer. It's the eye of Horus, who is an Egyptian god. And we look at the US $1 bill. Okay. We'll just pull that up. Dollar bill. There it is. See that? Remember this symbol here? Okay. Oops. Didn't want to do that. See? There's the all-seeing eye. So Palantir's name comes from this all-seeing, the Satan's eye, because in Lord of the Rings, Sauron is a representative of Satan. Okay? And this is how he looks at the whole world. And so the all-seeing eye, the eye of in Freemasonry, which is on the apron, and the light or the streams that go out from it represents a man's semen. So this, Satan is the god of sex. The obelisk that is all over the world, including the Washington Monument, including the obelisk in St. Peter's Square in London, many other places. Even we were in downtown Toronto the other night, and going past the CN Tower and the Rogers Center, what used to be known as the Sky Dome. And those two represent, like many other places, so you've got the Washington Monument, and then you got the Rotunda. And those two represent the genitalia of man and woman. The obelisk is the phallus of Nimrod, which legend has it when he was killed by Shem, Noah's oldest son, so his great uncle. He cut up his body and sent it to various places around the world that Nimrod ruled to warn everybody, if you don't stop all this evil, this is what's going to happen to you. Well, Semiramis, who was his wife, gathered up all the parts, but he was missing the phallus. This is, what legend has it. And so the obelisk became a representative of the missing phallus of Nimrod. And so what the occultists do is they will put these symbols, these structures all over the world, and they'll have the obelisk next to a round structure representing the womb. So it's all about sex. And Satan tries to pervert God's design for sexual relations between one man and one woman into making it everything but. And when you see, and what does this have to do with Palantir? Well, the name itself is representative of this. And if you look at Palantir's logo, here, let's have a look at this now. You look at the logo, and that looks pretty much like the all-seeing eye, doesn't it? So this is pretty serious stuff. So the representation of this is very evil. Now, where does the origins? What does Palantir do? It creates the system of AI generated systems that track what we do. And Alex Karp was actually on an NPR, so the National Public Radio. And some of the things he said are absolutely wild. So he says that we should, for instance, we should seriously consider moving away from an all-volunteer force and only fight the next war if everyone shares in the risk and the cost. What does that mean? It means mandatory draft. Alex Karp does not believe in a volunteer army. He believes that everybody should fight the elites' wars for them. Okay? Palantir itself calls itself the software that dominates. It doesn't protect, it doesn't help out, it doesn't solve, it dominates. And this puts is on the public profile. Now, where did Palantir even come from? It was formed by the CIA. In 2003, the CIA created, very much like Facebook. So if you've seen the Jason Bourne series, I think it's the fourth movie with Matt Damon, because there was another one in there that was kind of a recreation of the original one with another actor. But the fourth one was just called Jason Bourne. And you have Tommy Lee Jones as the head of the CIA, who's basically telling the creator of this software program that's supposed to be Facebook. I mean, it's abundantly clear. And the Indian guy who created it and runs it is really supposed to be Mark Zuckerberg. And Tommy Lee Jones is telling him how this is going to work and what he's got to do, and the fact that, you wouldn't have got this done if it wasn't for us. So the CIA, one of the most evil government entities in the world, creates this system called Palantir, names it after the all-seeing eye of Satan, to basically track everything that we do. And this is what it does. Palantir is gathering information on every single person in the world. This is what the Chinese social credit system does, and everything else. You got all these cameras that are up there taking data. And the whole movie, Enemy of the State, that's exactly what they were doing. They were having all of these cameras, all of these satellites that were circling around the world. I mean, that's what Elon Musk's Starlink is all about. These satellites will track every single thing we do. When we pick up our cell phone, there are tracking devices on those things. And even if you turn them off, you really can't turn them off. Even when we, try to hide what we do on the internet, using VPNs and the Tor browser, the Onion router, which spoofs your address. If they really want to, they can find you now. All of our technology, smart TVs, we have maintained for a long time that we like our TVs dumb, because I don't want that thing constantly feeding back information to, Palantir or whatever other organization, DARPA, whatever, that's going to be tracking me and building a profile on me to determine whether I'm going to live or die. Now, the idea for Palantir comes from way back in the 1930s. Now, I just showed you a clip from Lord of the Rings, where Saruman, who turned traitor because he was Gandalf's mentor, goes to the dark side. And it was through that. And also, if you've seen the series, you remember the steward of Gondor, who was kind of holding place until Aragorn comes and takes the rightful throne. Aragorn is a representative of Yeshua. So the Return of the King is the third book in the series. Okay, Tolkien was a Christian, he was Catholic, but this was all supposed to be about the gospel and the fight against good and evil. But Tolkien actually wrote The Lord of the Rings to warn against the technocracy that was already with guys like, his name just immediately escaped me, but he was Bertrand Russell. Bertrand Russell was a technocrat. He was an atheist, wrote a lot of books on why Christianity was bunk. But he was a technocrat. Aldous Huxley, who was what was the grandson, I believe, of Freud's assistant, and wrote Brave New World. And he basically said the belief in evolution was primarily because we want free sex and no consequences. That's what he said. And these guys were all part of this movement, which said that the world should be run not by politicians who are elected and responsible to the people who elected them, public servants, but it should be run by scientists and policy makers, technocrats, scientists, the people who look at the things that run the world. This is the kind of craziness that's out there. And you know who else was part of the technocracy group? Elon Musk's grandfather. Indeed. Elon Musk's grandfather, his name was Joshua Haldeman. He was a Canadian. And he was a chapter leader of Technocracy Inc. in Canada. You see, because what they believe is that regular people couldn't be trusted to make decisions. And a small group of smart men should control the economy and decide who gets what. And this is what Nazism was all about. This is what fascism is all about. The merging of the government and corporations, that they control everything so that we can be controlled. And they were funded very well. And Elon Musk, after World War II ended, you see, Germany lost World War II. The Nazis did not. And you hear all about what's going on in Antarctica and the fact that they got the UFOs under the ice there. Steve Quayle did this he wrote a book called Empire Under the Ice. So Nazism didn't die. As a matter of fact, they brought the technology over here. Anybody remember Operation Paperclip? Even Adolf Hitler did not die in his bunker. He was, there was a body double, so they just put another body there and burned the bunker to oblivion. And he was brought over. Even Javier Milei, the president of Argentina now, he said that Hitler was brought over there and died probably back in the 70s, the same way that Joseph Mengele, he had died in, I think it was Bolivia, 1977. So Operation Paperclip took about 5,000 Nazis and brought them over to the West in order to help continue with the research that they were doing. All right. And who was the first head of NASA? Wernher von Braun. He was head of the Third Reich's V2 rocket program. And even Israel brought in a German Nazi to help set up Mossad. So the Nazis didn't lose. Germany did, and they got punished severely for it. But the Nazis didn't, because those people were simply shifted over. And developing this technocracy, J.R. Tolkien wrote The Lord of the Rings as a polemic against these guys. Lord of the Rings is all about coming against Sauron and Palantir and all of these people who believe that technocracy should run the world. They don't believe that we should have any rights. They want to control everything that we do. If you've ever seen the Bourne series, the Bourne Identity, the Bourne Ultimatum, the Bourne Supremacy, Robert Ludlum, he wrote all these books showing what happens when the government decides that you're in their gun sights and you become a threat. They're tracking everything. They're tracking right now through YouTube. You think YouTube's free? They're building a database on who has ideas that aren't really, conducive to what they're trying to do. Okay? And so when they decide that they're going to pull the plug, Google made a huge, huge announcement just about a week ago or so. And very few people heard about it. But they're changing how their search engine runs. Okay? What are they doing now? When you put in a search result, AI is going to come up with the answer. They are taking out the links to websites that you can go to. So if I'm searching for something on XYZ, whatever, then AI is going to produce the answer for me. It's not going to take me to a website where someone may be telling me the truth. You're not going to get links anymore with Google searches. It's going to tell you what you need to think. And it comes down to George Orwell's 1984, where the Ministry of Truth tells you everything but. Okay? And so you've got Elon Musk here, who's the wealthiest man in the world, and they're putting together a financial package for him from Tesla. And you go along the roads and you see how many people own Teslas. They're a terrible investment. Batteries to replace are like $15,000 and stuff like that. I mean, I had to replace my battery last year. It was a couple $100. But they can also switch off cars. As a matter of fact, all cars now being made in 2026 and 2027 have a kill switch in them. And so the government can, at any point in time, or Palantir, whoever's running these things, shut it off. Do not buy a car from 2026 or 2027 if you intend on surviving. Because when they do shut the grid down, and that's going to be coming soon, you're not going to be able to get away. Older cars are still the best. So going back to Haldeman, Elon Musk's grandfather, they developed this concept of energy certificates, meaning that you are going to get a certain allotment of how much energy you can consume through the amount of gas that you can use, the amount of electricity, the natural gas, all those different things. You are going to get a certain allotment. It's going to be rationed. Now, they can fly all over the world in their private jets. And, what was it? There was a picture the other day of Mark Zuckerberg pulling into, I think it was Seattle, in his $300 million yacht after he just laid off 1,400 people from Facebook. They consume all the resources. They get all the resources. We are going to be limited. So Haldeman, Elon Musk's grandfather, believed in energy certificates. Now what does Elon Musk call it? Universal high income. It's the same thing. You will own nothing, according to the founder of the World Economic Forum. Remember him? Yeah, I mean, he had to step down because of the scandal that was exploding around him about some things that he was involved with. They're all involved in that kind of stuff. It was time for him to go. Okay, Klaus Schwab was no longer useful, so they said, out you go. But what did he say? You will own nothing and you will be happy about it. We're going to be happy being taken care of by these people until we're not being taken care of anymore. So they're going to determine what we do. AI, which Palantir is in the lead of producing, they're making robots now that are causing people to lose jobs. There is a bloodbath out there, beloved. A bloodbath in the work world. People are being laid off by the thousands. Companies are closing down. Why? Because now technology is at the point where they don't really need us anymore. Plato's Republic, what he said is that society, the ideal society, is going to be run by what we call the benevolent elite. Okay, those are the people who make all the decisions. And if you think they're benevolent, then you're out of your mind. You're going to have the army that's going to keep things in order, and they're going to have just enough peons, just enough of us folk, useless eaters, to run things for them. All the rest of the people need to be eliminated. And so that's why you have Bill Gates, whose father was also a eugenicist, believed in reducing population, Georgia Guidestones. Commandment number 1, what? Maintain human population under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. There's over 8 billion of us in the world today. They want to get rid of 90% of us. And so every 6 years or so, you got a new plandemic. You know, it was SARS back in 2004. And then you had whatever, and then in 2014 it was whatever, and then COVID in 2020, and now you've got, well, they tried hantavirus, that didn't work. Now they're going with Ebola, and they're going to come up with something. Population is plunging all over the world. Birth rates are going through the floor. Most European countries are like somewhere between 1.2 and 1.5 children per couple. You need 2.2 minimum just to replace the population. Italy's 1.2. They're on a death spiral, unless, of course, you bring in all kinds of people from other places, but then you're no longer who you were, because the people that they're bringing in from Africa, from Asia, who don't have the same values, you're changing the entire structure of society. I'm all for immigration if they're coming here to adopt. I mean, my wife and I were talking about it. Her family came here after the fall of communism. She's from Eastern Europe. Her parents came here to start a new life better than the one they had before. And they adopted the values of North America. They didn't expect to be on the government for handout. My mother-in-law started an adoption. She was a dentist back home, but it was too difficult with the language barrier to go through her certification all over again. So she started an adoption agency. My father-in-law became a master electrician. And they led a very successful life. The people that they're bringing over now into the West, they, first of all, don't share our values. They despise Western values. And they're working very hard to change that. And the values they have are not for the benefit of everybody else. I can assure you of that. And they want to bring their religious beliefs, which are contrary to ours. They want to bring their cultural beliefs, which are contrary to ours. And it is the great replacement. But you see, Western Christianity, see, what Satan can't fight against is when people understand freedom and they embrace it. And so he has to crush that. And those of us who speak of freedom, if you look what happened during the trucker convoy, that was kind of like a test run to see what would happen. Trudeau invoked the Emergencies Act, completely unwarranted. But when you understand what was going on, the trucker convoy was a massive, massive threat to the globalist agenda to bring us under their dominance and to set up this technocracy where we're going to be run. The tyrants can't handle people who are freedom-minded. And the Jewish people, for instance, were one of the most difficult people groups in all of history to subdue, because the idea of freedom was born within us through the Torah and through our relationship with God. In under the Roman Empire, you had 3 rebellions. 2 of them are more famous. The third one, not so much. But you had the first rebellion against Rome, starting in 66, ended in 70 with the destruction of the temple. You had the second one around 113 to 115, I believe, but it was more outside of Israel. It wasn't in the land as much. And then you had the third one, which was the Bar Kokhba rebellion. And Simon Bar Kokhba was proclaimed to be the Messiah by Rabbi Akiva. And this is, where you get the destruction, complete destruction of the Jewish people in Israel for 1,800 years. But because of the idea of freedom, that Israel was just impossible to subdue, they refused to bow down. And so if you are going to subdue everybody, you've got to destroy that idea of freedom within them. Now, what they have that they've never had in the past, at least, post flood, a lot of this technology was in existence before the flood, and that's why God had to destroy the world. They had technology that was far beyond anything that we could imagine. They're bringing it back now. But with technology, it's much easier to manage people. See, with everybody having a cell phone, it was very hard to track people a couple hundred years ago. If you decided you wanted to disappear, you could make that happen. Now, because of an electronic footprint, you can do that. It makes it much more difficult. They'll find you. And unless you have the cloaking of God, that's going to be very difficult. And, how else do we know about Palantir and how evil it is? Well, they have a software called Palantir Apollo. And here, let's, we'll have a look at that too. Showing you all kinds of good things here. So Palantir Apollo. Like Apollo is the name of the god of death. This is the spirit of the Antichrist right here. Okay, a sky full of clouds, Palantir Apollo orchestration, constraint-based continuous development for modern architectures. What does that mean? Who knows? Powering SaaS, where no SAS has gone before. Okay, you've got IL6 security requirements, building software for a zero trust world. Well, they're the ones creating the distrust. Okay, look at this. It's crazy. Man, oh man. Palantir built AI targeting systems called Maven that the U.S. actually uses to pick targets to bomb. And back in March of 2026, Maven picked a girls' elementary school in Iran. And over 165 people died. Now, Israel, of course, got blamed for that by all the conspiracy theorists out there who want to blame Israel for everything. But it was Palantir that did that. So Maven picks targets overseas, and then Alex Karp wants you to fight their wars because war is very profitable. What else did Alex Karp say? He said the engineering elite has an affirmative obligation to participate in the defense of a nation. Mandatory draft again. He also said we must fight the ruthless exposure of the private lives of the public figures. We must fight the ruthless exposure of the private lives of public figures. This is the same company that's tracking everything that we're doing. But they don't want to be analyzed. They don't want to be known for what they do. They don't want you to go and track them. They don't want you to know that they went to Epstein Island a whole bunch of times, and Elon Musk has been there, as was Donald Trump. They track every website you go to. They track every phone call that you make. But it's rules for thee and not for me. And what Alex Karp also said, he said that Palantir is here to disrupt and make our institutions the very best in the world. And when it's necessary, to scare our enemies on occasion, kill them. We are here to disrupt things, to kill people, and to dominate. That's what Palantir is. And it's taxpayer money that's funded this. I saw this really hilarious meme a couple of years ago where it said that, I built my billion-dollar company. I started it in my parents' garage. And then it says, here's my parents' garage. And there's, a bunch of guys in hoods. And you got the Masonic sign behind you. Elon Musk doesn't just start these things. Is he a brilliant guy? Absolutely, he is. But he didn't just come up with it on his own. He had help. And the same thing with Facebook. You think Mark Zuckerberg is that smart? Mark Zuckerberg isn't that smart. Smart guy. But he's not that smart. And with many of these other things too. Peter Thiel once said his people who want to regulate AI are the legionnaires of the Antichrist. Every journalist, regulator, and voter who thinks a private corporation shouldn't decide who gets bombed is, according to Thiel, doing the devil's work. See, Thiel, again, who is a practicing sodomite, wants to define what sin is and what isn't. And he ran all these lectures in secret places because he didn't want other people coming to find out what it was all about. So, what does this all mean for us? Well, I think a couple of things. I think that, number one, it helps us to be aware of who the enemy is. And there's much more detail we can go into. It's not really the kind of purpose. I just wanted to bring this to your attention, and you're certainly more than welcome and encouraged, actually, to go and to do some more research, if you're so inclined to. But it makes us aware of what we're dealing with and what's going on out there, and that there are steps that we can take to be a little more careful. I use a VPN, so so when I'm using my phone or my computer, it looks like I'm using an IP address from somewhere else. And there are many good ones out there. You can check them out, do some research. They're very, very cheap. They're like $3, $4, $5 a month. And it gives you a measure of protection. So that when I'm, doing research on stuff like that, they don't know exactly where they're, because they can trace your IP address right to your house. Your router, your modem, has a unique address. And it knows who the provider is, because that's all recorded, and where exactly it is. They'll know your address. Using a VPN, it'll change it. It'll say, it's off in down in the States, or it's over in Europe, or South America, or whatever. So it makes it just a little bit more difficult. I'm not saying it's perfect that you're completely anonymous, but it is much better. instead of using Google, which is another incredibly evil corporation, to do your searching, I use Brave. Brave browser, I think, is the most secure one. DuckDuckGo supposedly was, but then Casper Weinberg, the founder, got busted in sharing the information, so I wouldn't use that. Brave browser is one of your best options. So there are steps that we can take. But another thing, and I think more importantly, it allows us to be praying into certain things. And what that does is you are now inviting God to fight the battle on your behalf. Because remember, the battle is the Lord's and not yours. And when we praise God and when we give God thanks, God will cloak us. God will protect us. God will hide us. We are in Psalm 91. We're told that, he who dwells in the secret place of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. When we are in the secret place of the Most High, when we acknowledge God, and when we praise God, and when we ask God to help us, we are hidden from him. We are covered by the shadow of his wings. And so we can say, God, protect me. When I go online, I say, God, hide me from the enemy. Keep me cloaked from him. When Frodo, when he had the ring and we put it on, he would disappear. His enemies couldn't see him. And we do the same thing. We ask God to cloak us. We ask God to protect us. We ask God to hide us. But we can also pray that, and here's the part that I think we need to also really emphasize. We need to be taking an active role in praying against these things. And so what I do oftentimes is I'll talk about a specific company like BlackRock. That's one of my favorites. But other organizations too, like the United Nations, like the IMF, like the BIS, Bank of International Settlements, like the WHO, as they're trying to ram this pandemic treaty down our throats, which will strip all of our rights away and allow them to, force us to take all these, medications and things like that for diseases that they create. All of this stuff, you can pray against that, and you can ask God to forgive sins, and you can ask God that it would cover it with Yeshua's blood so that it neutralizes the demonic power that's working behind it. Because remember, Palantir isn't really the problem. Alex Karp really isn't the problem, as much as the psychopath he might be. And Peter Thiel and Bill Gates and Yuval Harari and Larry Fink and all of these globalists that want to see us destroyed, and Elon Musk. Elon Musk does a very good job of dancing between the two. But when you see what he's all about, and by the way, there's a pay package that they're setting up for him through Tesla that he'll actually make $1 trillion in compensation. $1 trillion. There was a movie back in the 80s, I think, with Richard Pryor called Brewster's Millions. And he was scheduled to inherit a bunch of money. But the condition is that he had to go spend $1 million in, I think it was 1 week or something like that. And the condition is that he wasn't allowed to actually own anything. So he couldn't just go out and buy a jet, or he had to spend $1 million and not have anything to show for it in order to get the 10 million or however much it was that he was supposed to inherit. And the whole movie was about how hard it was to spend $1 million and not have anything to show for it. Can you imagine someone being worth over $1 trillion? And that's what these guys, the Rothschilds and some of the others out there, that's what they're all about. They have that kind of wealth. Elon Musk currently is worth over $400 billion. If Richard Pryor had that much trouble spending $1 million, what do these guys need? What do these guys need that much money for? And here's the issue. What it all comes down to is that we don't have lack in this world. God has provided us enough of everything. There shouldn't be any hunger anywhere. So it's not as if we don't have enough resources. It's that we have too many people who think that the resources belong to them and don't want to share it with us because, again, we are considered to be useless eaters. So we're not worthy of them sharing what they control with us. Not that it was ever given to them, but, through a sin-fallen world, you have people that are going to take control. Freedom is always under attack. There are always those who want to dominate others and want to control us, who want to tell us what to do, what not to do, what we're allowed to have, what we're not allowed to have, ultimately to decide whether we live or die. And that's the battle that we're in. But by invoking God's name and by calling down the power of God through obedience to him, walking in the secret place of the Most High, dwelling in the shadow of the Almighty, though 1,000 may fall at my side and 10,000 at my right hand, we will not be touched. God will strike down our enemies and leave us protected. And so what you can do, beloved, in the face of Palantir that is looking to control everything that we do, you can ask God, Lord, I plead the blood of Yeshua over Palantir, and I ask you would forgive all sins of that corporation. And I pray, Father, that you would disrupt the enemy's plans for what they're trying to do with this company. That kind of prayer has power. I do it all the time with all kinds of things. The power of the blood is what breaks the enemy's power. 1 John 3:8, 38 special. Yeshua came to destroy the works of the devil, it says. Yeshua came to destroy the works of the devil. And so when we invoke the power of his blood, we claim the blood, we plead it over us so that the enemy no longer has access to us through the sins that we have. Father, we repent of anything we've done. We cover ourselves with the blood from the top of our head to the very soles of our feet. Cover our houses. We cast out any unclean spirits. If enough Christians were to get together and start praying that, pleading the blood, how did Moses, you think this is just, charismatic nonsense? How did Moses keep Israel alive 40 years in the desert? He and Aaron asked that God would forgive the sins when they rose up and rebelled. The power of blood works. Palantir is one of the most evil companies in the world, and it is dangerous. And they are setting up the eventual system that will allow us to be tracked by everything. But God is still more powerful. Greater is he who is within us than he who is in the world. So I want to thank everybody for joining us, and leave us a comment. Let us know whether this was helpful to you or not. And we pray that this week is going to be a good and prosperous one for you. Keep searching the truth, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week right here on lambnetwork.tv and the Threshing Floor. Shavua Tov. Have a good week, everybody.
I won't run from the crushing. I'll hold on through the pain. What I lose means nothing.
If you missed today's show or want to watch it again, or want to tell someone where they can watch this episode, go to lambnetwork.tv, where you can find this show and all the other live Lamb Show archives in the on-demand section of the website. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to tell someone about the Messianic Lamb Network.
I just wanna be your sanctuary, a dwelling place for grace and mercy. Keep sifting me till everything is on the threshing floor.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussions, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take a tour of the lambnetwork.tv website. I'm Darryl Weinberg, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.